This is part 3 of the special episode on the ukulele, in which singer-songwriter Penny Grennan talks about her choice of the uke for performance. This part ends with one of Penny's songs, Love on the Big Screen, which is taken from her first album, No Relation. Penny Grennan, you are a composer and singer and an exponent of the ukulele. Can you tell me why you chose to play the ukulele?
I was originally a guitar player, so I started playing the guitar when I was 9, which is a long time ago. And I got to a point where there were a couple of things happening. First of all, I was bored of my own playing and a bit stuck. Also, guitars, even if you get small ones, are incredibly cumbersome and heavy to carry around. And actually, my hands were beginning to hurt. So I used to be a weaver and I broke all my fingers, and so it was all catching up with me slightly. But I hadn't even thought about the ukulele. The ukulele was George Formby territory to me until my daughter and I went to the Fringe in Edinburgh, and we hadn't booked for it, but there was a show called How Ukulele Saved My Life, and I said, let's go to that, that'll be a laugh. And it was £5 or something. So we went in, and this hall was completely packed with people who'd all been handed a ukulele at the door. And this show was incredibly well constructed. It was very clever. So it was a cross between a story about somebody, and it was all told in the first person, about somebody who was deeply, deeply depressed, and, they couldn't get out of their depression, and they didn't have a job, and, the world was looking pretty grim, really. And somebody introduced them to the ukulele. But interspersed with that story was us playing along to the Skyboat song using 3 chords, and basically they taught about 150 people or something how to play the ukulele in an hour. But the punchline was, you cannot be sad and play the ukulele. So I said to Rosemary, my daughter, I said, I want to buy one of those. And then I said, no, I'm not going to buy it, because they were selling them at the door, so you could buy the ukulele that you'd played, and they weren't expensive, £25 or something. And I said, I won't get one of those now, because I have to carry it round with me for the rest of this visit. So I didn't buy one and completely forgot about it, so I carried on doing what I was doing, and she bought me one for Christmas 3 years later. And it wasn't pink and plastic. It was a nice ukulele, because that's the trick, is to get a nice one. I mean, not hugely expensive, but she bought me my first ukulele, and she said, here you are, Ma. You said you wanted to play. And there was a ukulele group at Core Music, and so I went and joined it. Realised that because I'd been a guitar player for so long, that actually this was a small step for womankind to transfer over to the ukulele, and then discover this whole world of ukuleles about which I knew nothing. But they're much kinder on the hands, much more portable, and like the guitar world, although people are quite a bit sniffy about ukuleles, I've got 12, I think, and there's a huge range within that. I've got a 1920s banjolele, I've got an electric uke, I've got a resonator uke, I've got a baritone, I've got a tenor, I've got a soprano. I've got a whole variety of ukuleles which all make a different sound, as they would do if they were guitars. There's a sort of hierarchy of instruments in the world, I think, starting with a Stradivarius and ending up with a pink plastic ukulele. And I think it's unfounded, really, because you can find all sorts of people who play, classical music on the ukulele. It has a very particular sound to it, but so does a harp, or so does anything else. So I rarely play the guitar. I have a lot of guitars, and I keep them in different tunings, and they help me with composing or writing tunes for my songs. But I don't take them out and about. I do take my banjo out, which is much bigger than a ukulele, but it means I can carry a ukulele as well. So I love them.
You can look on YouTube and see people who are virtuosos on ukulele doing some spectacular stuff. So why do you think there's this lingering prejudice against them? Surely the George Formby effect is worn off by now, but most people, as you say, see them as slightly comical, don't they?
They do, and I think it's partly because it's an imported instrument. So in Hawaii, the ukulele is not a source of humour, it's their national instrument. And so I think part of it is that it's a sort of newcomer on the scene. It's a bit like the recorder, I suspect. So you can get the most extraordinary, like medieval Baroque recorder players, but it's a bit of a niche or a minority interest. I think it's partly because the recorder is taught at school, and now the ukulele is taught at school. So it's the instrument of the masses. Mm-hmm. So then, if you start talking about the hierarchy of instruments, I think it's probably always going to be at the bottom. But I went recently to the North Tyne Ukulele Festival, which was held in North Shields. And there were workshops and things like that, the most exquisite players, and then bands. They were just phenomenal. Not all of them on uke, but as part of the mix, mm-hmm. They were extraordinary. So I think it is coming into its own, but I think it's always going to be a popular instrument rather than a rarefied one. And if there is a symphony played on the ukulele, it will be an exception, rather in the concert mm-hmm. world rather than the rule. Yeah. Because all the ukulele orchestra of Great Britain, they're all classically trained and absolutely phenomenal players, and the orchestration, the harmonies and the parts are just like unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But they're a bit of a rarity. So you say
it was relatively recently introduced, I assume. So it doesn't have a traditional role in English, quote unquote, English folk music. So what kind of music do you think is best suited to it? Well,
you can play any type of music that you can play on a guitar. Mm-hmm. And it was demonstrated at this festival that I went to. So they were almost like heavy rock ukulele bands.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you can amplify them and, you can put effects on them and do whatever you like. I do amplify mine, but I'd play a lot of folk or singer-songwriter stuff. It's quite an intimate instrument, I think. And in a funny sort of way, I think it's a cleaner sound than a guitar. And it's partly because it's got 4 strings. And so quite often, unless you're a really, really good player on the guitar, you're hitting strings that you don't necessarily want to hit. And there's always this sort of, it's a bit soupy sometimes. Yeah. So I think it's a cleaner sound.
You mentioned that you use the ukulele for pragmatic reasons. Do you use it to compose on as well as the guitar, or is the guitar your composition instrument?
No, I always start with the ukulele unless I know I want a completely different tuning. Mm-hmm. So like if I'm composing on a tenor guitar, which is tuned in a particular way, or the banjo. But what I normally do is I start off in the uke, and then if I feel like I'm getting stuck in a bit of a rut, I will play whatever I'm trying to do mm-hmm. on a whole range of instruments to see where it locates, because obviously the style of the instrument is very different, so the banjo or the guitar or whatever it is.
So is there a particular sort of mood that you would think, this suits a ukulele, not my tenor guitar or banjo?
Yes.
What would that be?
Yeah. Well, the tenor guitar's modal, so it's got a particular sort of sound to it, mm-hmm. which is incredibly resonant. That's only got 4 strings actually, but it's incredibly resonant and slightly disconcerting. It's not that pure key that or note that you would, or chord rather, that you would have. If I've decided that I want to go down their sort of Americana route, then I'll try it out on the banjo. So it depends what I'm writing, really. But my first place to go will be the ukulele, which is a baritone size strung as a tenor, so it's got more resonance.
So when you went to the ukulele group Core Music as a guitar player, how long did it take you to get used to that different way of tuning the strings and achieve a kind of competence that you were happy with?
Hardly any time at all, because it's so similar to the guitar, really. I don't know how long it was, but not very long. And of course, you see the shape of a G on a ukulele is the same shape as a D. So I wasn't asking my fingers to go into peculiar. Some of them I was, but a lot of the shapes were the same,
Yeah.
but only the 4 strings, if that makes sense. But I just had to call them something else.
That's what interfered with my prospective ukulele career. I just couldn't make the transition from the guitar. Not that I'm a great student of the guitar, but I know where the chord positions are. But having the different tuning in the ukulele, and especially having the 4th string a higher pitch, that really confused me, and I just could not overcome that difference.
Right, so there's 2 things there. The first thing about the having the string higher, I often use a low G on it, so it's lower, because then that, in terms of my ear, makes more sense. But if you were to play a baritone ukulele, it's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th string of the guitar.
Yeah.
Exactly the same tuning.
Yeah, so that's E, B, G, D.
Yeah, so the only peculiar thing you have to deal with is the fact that there's 2 strings missing at the top.
There's no bass. So it's a bit like Keith Richards playing his 5-string guitar in the Rolling Stones, except you've got 4 strings, so you're even better than Keith Richards.
Yeah.
Right, well, I obviously picked up the wrong ukulele.
So that's a baritone. The baritone is tuned like that, strung like that.
Yeah.
And you can string it with guitar strings.
You mentioned different tunings, so what kind of tunings do you use for your ukuleles?
Oh, well, I just use the standard tunings for the ukulele. It's the guitars that I put into different tunings because I leave them. I've got lots and lots of cheap guitars in particular tuning, so that I don't have to spend ages messing about. They're just there for me to have a go on. So I don't mess about with the tunings on my ukulele. I mean, I do in a sense that I've taken baritone instruments and put tenor strings on it, and one of the bridges has just come off, and I think it's because of the tension, so it's a bit naughty really. So I do mess about to that extent, but not apart from that. I don't know.
Could we hear some of your instruments?
We could. Shall we start with the resonator?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, put your earplugs in.
That's very bright, isn't it?
It is.
Lovely.
Then there's a baritone strung as a tenor. So that's resonant. This is resonant in a different way.
Yeah, it's a much warmer sound, isn't it?
But it's got a low G on it.
Small guitar, isn't it? I mean, if you're thinking about an Ed Sheeran type acoustic guitar, then that's just a tad smaller than that, isn't it? So it's quite big for a uke.
It is. It's the biggest size you can get, unless you can. Or even the bass ukes are not as big as this, I don't think. No, I think they're the size of tenors or concerts. So yeah. So I have got a 1920s banjolele upstairs, but it depends whether you can pause for a moment while I go and get it.
I can pause, yeah, that's fine.
So this one.
This is the 1920.
Yes, it's a very distinctive, I think, 1920s sound, if you know what I mean. It's like always slightly out of tune.
But that's banjo style instruments, isn't it? They always sound that way.
So that's over 100 years old, this one.
By banjo style we mean that the sound comes from a skin stretched over the body of the instrument, rather than through a sound hole, as it does in the ukulele,
Yeah, and this one, I'm assuming is a real skin.
Oh wow.
I think. And then I've got a contemporary version of this. So this is also banjolele.
is very much like a cross between a banjo and a ukulele, isn't it?
It is. It is, but this is much harsher, I think, the modern one. It is a harsher instrument. I play this a lot in the cherry pickers because that's the sort of sound that we want.
And it cuts through a lot of the other instruments, I would think, doesn't it?
Yeah, and because we've got a washboard, sometimes a kazoo, and the melodeon or harmonica, it's that sort of it's that sort of pitch of sound, I suppose. Yeah. But then I do play the other ukes, the tenor ukes. So I've got a soprano.
That's a tiny instrument, that one.
Yeah, the great thing about a soprano ukulele is that you can put it in your hand luggage. If you want to take an instrument with you on a plane, it's a nightmare. So.
Even though that's such a small instrument, it does sound quite warm, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a short scale length and quite a small body, but it's not 100% different from the other ukulele, full scale ukuleles you're playing, is it?
No, and I put a drop G on this.
Yeah.
I do think having a low G on the wooden ukes adds to that warmth.
Yeah.
Because like this one is. My dog has fleas. Whereas this one is. Makes much more sense, especially if you're a guitar player, where you've got the lowest string closest to you. Yeah. So I use this one particularly for songs that I'm writing which are about a slightly 1920s, 30s feel to them. I don't know why, that's just me.
Well, that's just where the instrument fits, isn't it? In the armoury, as it were.
And then this is one that you can't see because we're not videoed, but absolutely extraordinary electric uke that I've got, which is like a guitar neck upside down. You play it with the heads, the tuning heads, next to your right arm, and then you play the neck, but there's nothing to stop you falling off the head.
Like a Steinberg guitar, which has no head. And the tuning pegs are at the other end of the body.
Yeah.
But that's what that looks like. But the tuning pegs are on the top.
Yeah.
Of the body. That's remarkable. I've never seen an instrument like that.
No, neither have I. Somebody bought it for me. I don't play it very often because the connections needs looking at. It's got a slight buzz on it. But also, I'm so busy playing, and then I've suddenly fallen off the end of my instrument. So it's not entirely practical, but it's quite amusing.
Because you've got nylon strings on, haven't you?
Yeah, so the strings, there's a change going on in the string department as far as, the main provider of ukulele strings is Aquila. And they're making them thicker and more plastic. I mean, they are obviously all plastic except for the wound G. And I'm having a bit of trouble with them, really. I'm going to have to I don't like, they're not as flexible. They're harder, I think. But these strings have been on for ages, of this peculiar sawn-off shotgun of a ukulele.
You're right, it does look like the top half of a guitar neck with the head, doesn't it? It's just the wrong way round.
Yeah. It's like a bass guitar.
Yeah.
With the if it's got its 4 pegs at the bottom and somebody's sawn
sawn everything else off.
The keyboard.
I thought, what am I going to do with that now?
Yeah, it is absolutely extraordinary.
So that's not yet seen the light of day in the studio?
No. It should do, really. I mean, as I said before, I've just got too many instruments for my own good. But this is for anybody who has a partner who says you have to get rid of your instruments. Don't do it. Because the other day I got my stick dulcimer out and I haven't played it for years, and I played it in a gig and it was a complete joy. It's not a ukulele, it's a dulcimer that's shaped like a stick and is the most ridiculous instrument I own, and it sounds medieval and fantastic. And if I didn't have it, I wouldn't have played it.
So yeah, never part with an instrument. It's not worth it.
No.
However much you think you need the money. I suppose if you really need the money, but...
Yeah. You can always hang them on the wall if you run out of floor space.
Yeah.
Or take up the uke. They're all small.
Oh, that's true. You can get a lot more of them on the wall
Yeah.
and they're not heavy either, so they don't fall off.
Yeah, imagine how many ukes you could have in your house. Wall-to-wall ukes.
You could, couldn't you? My goodness, the house would resonate.
Yeah, every time you laughed, there would be a concerto going on in the background.
So, are any of these making an appearance on your new CD?
Oh, yes, they are. So the tenor uke makes a lot of appearances on it. I am thinking about playing the 1920s banjolele on one song. I do play banjo on that. So yes, I pick and I decide what I'm going to play at the time.
And is there a track on your current album that we can play for people that demonstrates the ukulele for them?
There is Love on the Big Screen, which is just me and a tenor ukulele.
Thank you, Penny. That's been lovely.
No, a pleasure. What a pleasure to talk about my ukuleles and get them all out and dust them off.
Not many people come round to your house and say, show me your ukuleles, do they?
They don't, no. They usually say, don't show me your ukuleles.
Not again, Penny. Put them away.
Thank you.
Whispering love in the fading light. Outside it's day and here it's night. Our love on the big screen. Holding hands, it feels just right. From black and white to the silver screen. At the Odeon on golden screen. We are the stars in our own love scene. The greatest romance there has ever been. Whispering love in the fading light. Outside it's day, in here it's night. Our love on the big screen. Holding hands, it feels just right. Working as an usherette, there's one thing I can't forget. Many years we have been a secret. Let's put our love on the big screen. Whispering love in the fading light. Outside it's day, in here is night. Our love on the big screen. Holding hands, it feels just right. You're in my heart, you're always there. Your loving eyes, your lips, your hair. I know you're celluloid, but I don't care. I never want to end this strange affair. Whispering love in the fading light. Outside it's day, in here is night. Our love on the big screen. Holding hands, it feels just right. Whispering love in the fading light. Outside it's day, in here is night. Our love on the big screen. Holding hands, it feels just right.
Thanks for listening to the 3 Times podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe and tell your friends about it.